Right. So let's start with our why. We're talking about family dynamics and caregiving, coping with conflict and engaging family members, how to get people to engage, how to maybe we may have some who think they're engaging, but they're not engaging in a way that's very helpful. So we're going to cover those things as well. Maybe people who are out of town, but they read a lot, and so they want to tell us how to do things, but they're not here. So the goal is we're going to cover all of that in the next hour. But I want us to start with why do we even do it? What's our why? And if you are currently a family caregiver, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about your why. When you study this, when you look it up, when you do research on it, what you'll find is these are the top three answers that come up over and over. They want to keep their loved one at home. Absolutely. For as long as possible, we want to keep our loved one at home. We want to make sure that we don't ever make a promise that we might not be able to keep. In fact, we've got a program called But I Made a Promise. And when you have to break that promise, don't make the promise. We don't know where this disease is going. Don't make that promise. But we are going to keep them at home as long as we possibly can until safety becomes an issue. It's probably the number two question that we get. Number one being, what's the difference in Alzheimer's and dementia? Number two, I would say, is how do I know when it's time to place? Safety, physical safety and emotional safety of the person with dementia and of the caregiver. Safety, physical and emotional of the person with dementia and of the caregiver. Second reason that people say that they are a caregiver because they want to keep their loved one close to family, close to their church in that small town. Things like that, proximity. And the third thing that people will say is, well, I'm obligated. It's my spouse. It's my parent. They took care of me. Now I've got to take care of them. It's my sibling. It's my best friend. Of course, I'm going to. I'm obligated to do it. We'll hear this an awful lot with adult children, especially maybe you didn't have a great relationship with the person that you're now taking care of. It can be the same with spouses. And I certainly, over the course of my many years of doing this, have seen plenty of ex-spouses taking care of their ex with dementia. Okay, I got some more folks hopping in. Get them in here. We are going to start by watching this 1 minute video, and it is the 2025 Alzheimer's disease facts and figures. It's going to help us kind of solidify the why. Why do we do this? So that's a great way to just kind of look at those current statistics. But there's other statistics as well, and it's statistics about caregivers. Most caregivers will say that taking care of their loved one is rewarding. And I'm here to tell you, as I know I've been with over 500 people now as they've passed away and with their families, that Families will look back on the time, and it is pretty rare that a family says, I had to take care of. They say, I was able to. I was blessed to get to. And they will look back on it as a rewarding time, even through the really, really hard times where they may suffer. And that very next slide talks about suffering emotionally, financially, and physically. So the latest statistic on caregivers is that about 48% of caregivers are doing it by themselves. It's one person taking care of another person by themselves. 60%, and I think this is low, I think it's low by about 40%, report high or very high emotional stress levels. I don't know that I've ever met a caregiver that wasn't under a lot of stress. I think this next one's low also. 45% experience depression. At some time or another, we know that depression and dementia go hand in hand, not only for the person with dementia, but for the caregiver. 50% experience anxiety. And again, this is just people who answered the questions, and I think these are low. Over 60% of caregivers feel like they're on duty 24/7. You can sure understand that. But look at this. 74% of caregivers report physical health problems. Now, this is physical health problems related to caregiving. Think about yourself if you are a caregiver. How's your back? How's your sleep? Are you having headaches? Are you having gastrointestinal issues? Because IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is very common in caregivers. We dump cortisol, our digestion shuts down. So we go in and out, diarrhea, constipation, diarrhea, constipation. Confusion yourself, forgetting things yourself because you're in a fog. You're in that caregiver brain fog. And over 75% of people report a sense of relief after their loved one passes. Now, in our support groups, we've changed that word because relief, a lot of people feel guilt over the word relief. I'm relieved that they passed. So we work really, really hard in our support groups to change that word to release. Release. I felt a sense of release when my loved one passed. They were released from the disease. I was released from the disease, and that's okay. That's okay. And then we don't have that heavy weight of guilt. We can switch it and call it what it is. It's grief. And then with grief, we can have some grace. I call it the 3 Gs. We tend to come in calling it guilt. What if we replace that with the word grief? Even if your loved one's still alive, you're grieving the loss of them. And then what if we overlaid that grief with grace? So who's in the family? We got a lot of people in the family, but let's just start with our spouse, our partner, the children, the grandchildren, siblings, nieces, nephews, in-laws, other relatives. But who else is in the family? I've heard this group called our soul family, our friends, our community, our church members, our co-workers, our neighbors. And you may be thinking, but it's none of these people's business. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. These are the very people that if you had good news, you're going to call every one of them. And you would expect them to call you if they had good news. Well, you know what? We've got a loved one that has been diagnosed with a progressive terminal illness and we need help. Who are we going to call on? This group right here. Now, I know some of you are thinking, yeah, but they don't do that until you've asked. And we're going to talk about how to ask. And please, some of you are also going, I don't want to burden. As a therapist, I'm on the other side of that. I get the adult children coming in going, my mom or dad won't let me help. They tell me they're fine. I had no idea how bad it was. And here's something you need to hear. So many people want to help. They really do want to help, but they don't know what to do. They haven't experienced dementia. They're not in the classes like you are. They don't have the skill set, but they are willing to help. Again, think about when people have called on you. Hey, would you mind bringing me dinner? Could you run an errand? Would you drop this off for me? It makes us feel good because we helped somebody. We got to learn to let this great big group of people help us too. We're going to talk more about that today. Family changes. Some of the people that we thought would be there, now here's a big word, here's a counseling word, expected. Some of the people that we expected to be there are not going to be there. And then we're going to have people that we never thought of are going to be the ones that step up. You're going to meet people in support groups. You're going to meet people on programs like this. You are going to meet people that fall into your life that become part of your support team. I guarantee you. Now, we are right here at the holidays, and it's already an emotional time. I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones recently, and every person who's come on for a one-on-one therapy session has said, I just hate December. This is so hard. This is one of the most difficult times of year. So we've got to work to reframe that. Let's not go in hating it or dreading it because there's going to be family. How can we do better with that? What can we do so that we don't allow other people to kind of pull us down or drag us back into the past and those family roles? At the holidays, we have really got to learn to give ourselves some grace and to realize we don't have to do anything. If you catch yourself saying, but we have to, we have always, no, we don't. This year, we're a year further into a progressive terminal illness with our loved one. How many Christmases do we have left? How many holiday times do we have left? The last thing that we need to be getting worked up about are lights, gifts, Christmas sweaters, food. What if we had intention with connection? And what if we had intention with connection to family? Intention with connection to family instead of anxiety about family. We can get into anxiety about, and I've got some things on here, politics. Oh, God forbid the uncle's going to come in and start talking politics. We all have one. What if we start talking about the virus, or we bring up COVID, or social issues, or personal beliefs? What if, as a family, this year we focused on connection? Now, how do we get everybody on board with that? We're going to talk about that. And the third bullet point I put, isn't it ironic how special occasions can bring out the worst in a family? So why does that happen? Why does it happen? In all families, there's patterns and process. That's what's called family dynamics. And they didn't just turn up. They've been developed over years, sometimes over decades. And they will repeat themselves as our family tree grows, as our family changes. That's where we have to become very flexible. And as caregivers, we are flexible and we adapt. Tradition can change, and it's most definitely going to change when we have a loved one with dementia. Now, I want to talk about the 6 most common family roles. And as we're talking about this, I would love for you to be thinking about your own family, who fits where, and where are you? Are you the peacekeeper? Are you the one that tries to keep the peace between everybody? Lots of times the caregiver will fall into that role. Who's the scapegoat or the problem child or the difficult one? The one that we can always talk about because you know what kind of troubles they've got into recently. You're just not going to believe the mess they've got going on now. You know, they've always. Who's that person in your family? Then we've got the person who's kind of always been a caretaker. They try to placate the chaos, but many times the other role they play is they're an enabler. That's the person who's the enabler. Every family's got the clown. This is also called the mascot, the one who uses humor to try to deflect, or their achievements or their talents, because they're trying to get the stress Look at me. I'm going to do something fun. Let me sing a song. Let me play the piano. Let's not get in an argument. Let's not get in a fight. I'll be funny. Let me tell a funny story. Many times this person is really loud. They're the ones that center of attention. Who's the hero in your family? It's that overachiever, and they're overachiever because they're overcompensating for some difficulties they've had. They can even be over responsible to try to create a sense of normal. And then who's that lost child? This may be the one that doesn't show up. When's the last time somebody heard from cousin such and such? They're quiet, they keep to themselves. You're having a family event. Where do they go? And they're outside walking around. Or I used to have an uncle who would go out and play with kids. He didn't want to be in with the adults. He'd go out and he'd be outside with kids. Now, I want you to think about where you fall in your family. And I want you to think about how long you've held that role. Because many of us think about your family of origin. What role do you play in that family of origin? And then do you play a different role in the family you created? And here's where it can really get hard. We get together with our big family at the holidays, and even though I haven't been the peacekeeper in years, I get back with my family, and all of a sudden I'm being the peacekeeper again. That is family dynamics. So keep those in mind as we move forward. And again, those of you who have just joined, you will get these slides and you'll get a copy of this video, plus it will be up on YouTube before the end of the week. So now let's talk a little bit about behaviors. They get programmed into us when we're children, and we just carry them forward, and they can become something that we do for a lifetime, good and bad. Because I want you to think about something. And if you've been watching our programs for a while, you've heard us talk about something I'd like for you to kind of make a note of. Somebody somewhere taught every person who's on today physical hygiene. Take a shower, brush your teeth, put on some deodorant, change clothes, comb your hair. Somebody taught you that. But who taught you emotional hygiene? Anybody? Who taught you about feelings or emotions? Now, if you think about yourself for a moment, where did you learn emotional hygiene? The majority of people will say, I learned it from watching the adults around me. Well, what if the adults around you were not healthy? That's when we get bullet point number 2. That generational stuff that we can hand down, sometimes it's called generational sin, where we hand down addiction, affairs, strife, abuse. Well, I'm going to drink whenever I get in a stressful situation because I watched my dad drink under stressful situations, who watched his dad drink under stressful situations, and nobody broke the pattern. We have to break the chain of that type of behavior. That's emotional hygiene. Now, as children, we didn't realize healthy versus unhealthy. We were just managing, but we got absorbed in the dynamics. And then we get together as a group, and as a group of adults, we fall back into that role when we get around that family of origin. I was recently talking to one of my very best friends, and she told me at Thanksgiving, this past Thanksgiving, before she got to her mom and dad's house, her brother was already texting, are you bringing some alcohol? Make sure you stopped and got. The roles were already, she hadn't even got there yet. And some of you I know are smiling because you did the same thing. Or you're thinking about Christmas coming up and you go, oh, yeah, I got to make sure. Because we're falling back. If we go into special occasions or time with our family Expecting, there's that word again, expectations. Got to work on expectations. But if we go in expecting issues, how do we walk in? Full armor. I got my shield ready for confrontation. And we start trying to avoid the debacle, and we will slip back into those family roles if we're not careful. So let's look at homeostasis. What is it? That dynamic balance between the autonomic branches of the nervous system. What keeps us from going into fight, flight, freeze, fawn? Family members acting to maintain the typical organization and functioning of their system, whether it's positive or harmful to everyone. Because why? There's a resistance to change. Well, this is how we've always done it. Uncle so and so's going to be drunk by noon. Aunt so and so's going to do this. That reminds me of the lampoon, the Christmas Vacation, when the aunts and uncles come over and everybody's rolling their eyes. This is just what they do. Don't we say that about family? This is just what they do. This is just how we are. Well, what if it wasn't? What if it wasn't? What if we could start the shift? So, what are some of the reasons that we see this? That shift in dynamics. What about the role reversals? When we add dementia, role reversals, now I'm taking care of parents, even role reversals in birth order of children. Maybe I'm not the oldest, I'm the youngest, or I'm the middle, but I'm the one taking care of the parent, but the oldest one still thinks that they are going to be telling me what to do. Guilt comes in. We've talked about guilt. What if we could shift from that feeling of guilt? Guilt is when you've done something intentional that was wrong, usually to gain something. With caregiving, that's rarely the case. It's not guilt, it's grief. We just don't know to call it that. The shift in priorities, the changes in emotions, the uncertainty. You know the reason that people get angry? When we dig down into people that are angry all the time, the base of that is fear. Easiest emotion for most people, not everybody, but for most people, is anger. Because when I'm loud and I'm pointing, or I'm broad and I'm standing, you're going to pay attention. And I feel like I'm in control, even if I'm not. But if we dig down into that anger, in most people, they are scared to death of something. Well, let's have a loved one with a diagnosis of dementia. And what are we scared of? Maybe I'm scared that this is our last holiday time together. And so I come in blazing because I can't do the fear. It's too hard. Anger's easier than fear. And then maybe there's those past disagreements that we're still holding on to as well. Let's look a little bit closer at role reversal, the adult child taking on the role played by the parent, independence being lost by the person with dementia. And then what about vicarious loss? Vicarious loss is when you are exposed to a trauma or exposed to any type of crisis or difficulty over and over and over again. First responders have a lot of vicarious loss. Social workers and counselors have a lot of vicarious loss because we hear everybody's stories and then we try to carry all of them. We have to become masters at being able to compartmentalize. You're taking care of a loved one and you're exposed to things every day, hour by hour, that's very unusual for this person, your loved one. They never talked like that. They never acted like this. And it can be abusive. It can really feel abusive. Because if you're the primary caregiver, here's no secret. You're not only the good guy, you're the bad guy. You're both roles. For a while, you're going to play both roles. You're the good guy and the bad guy. Don't leave me, don't leave me. You're the one trying to poison me. Don't leave me, don't get out of my sight. You took all my money. And we're exposed to that day after day. And then we can get to where we say things like that obligation, I had no choice. It's my turn to take care of them. I've mentioned grief several times. I want you to notice the box that's on the screen, and I'm going to read this to you because you may have never heard the word grief associated with what's going on with you and your loved one's still alive. Grief doesn't have to do with death, grief has to do with loss. Anticipatory grief, a form of bereavement for what is expected to be loss, what is being lost slowly over time, and or what has been partially lost. The experience may be similar to normal grief, but be unexpected since the loss itself has not yet fully occurred. One of the ways that I describe ambiguous and anticipatory loss, ambiguous loss is we're grieving the loss of somebody who's still alive because we're losing a little bit of them at a time. Anticipatory is we are grieving an unknown future. This is the kind of stuff. And again, you're going to get copies of these slides. You're going to get copies of this program. Send it to your family before they get here so that they know. Now, can you make them watch it? No, but you can send it and you can talk about it. Do a family email. Hey, I was on this program. I just wanted to share. There's some great information about what's going on with us. I didn't realize that this is actually grief we're going through, even though mom's still alive. We're all grieving in different ways, and it plays into our family dynamics. This year, why don't we focus on connection? Let's order in food. Let's go out for food. Let's do burgers and hot dogs. Who cares as long as we connect? Ambiguous and anticipatory grief can come out of nowhere. They're called grief bursts when they come and they knock us down. They come in waves, they show up slowly, they show up physically, emotionally, spiritually, professionally, socially. And then we're also at a really high risk for burnout and compassion fatigue, which can create some complex relationships, especially among family. Now, you're the one who's educating yourself. You're the one who's showing up on programs like this. What can you do? Again, you can't make somebody be on a program, but you can sure send them the link because they can watch this in the middle of the night on YouTube and never tell you that they did it. But just send them the link so that family and friends start to understand better. So, what are some of the challenges that can come up? The denial, of course, anger, depression, stress, culture, education, fear, that's big. There's that expectations again, unrealistic expectations of our family, and resistance. Have you caught yourself saying something like, well, they should know what I need? Well, they don't. And even if they do, if you're feeling like that, there's some expectations that must be unrealistic. What can we do? First of all, let's be proactive. Be proactive. We've got to discuss things like, as a family, when are we going to tell others about this diagnosis? Do we have all of the papers in place? Have we taken mom's name off of dad's power of attorney? Have we done that kind of thing? There's just stuff we've got to talk about as a family. So if we are proactive, again, you're going to hear me say it over and over, we can't change other people, but we can change our pattern, our participation, and our part in family dynamics. That's called emotional growth, and it's called emotional maturity, is what it's called. When we stay grounded and we're aware of what's going on around us, we're being proactive, we're growing emotionally, and we're developing emotional maturity. Now, you may be saying, I'm 70 years old. Of course, I'm. You continue to grow emotionally your entire life, or you don't. And then what if we go in expecting the best instead of walking in with that shield up. Well, I know Uncle so and so is going to bring up and I'm ready for them. Well, let's not go in like that. We're setting up expectations. We're waiting for the fight. We're ready for it. We came in with our shield. We're just waiting for them to say it. Well, we have a part in it. We're participating in it. We're repeating the pattern. We've got control over that with our 3-pound brains. We've got control over that. If you go in expecting the best, you're going to come in more positive. You're going to come in with more energy. And we're going to respond rather than react. Another thing that we say a lot in most all of our programs, the difference in a response and a reaction, that single deep breath. One deep breath will make you pause long enough to think about what you're about to say or do. Because you're pushing oxygenated blood up to your 3-pound brain. Your filter still works. You're not the person with dementia. You know not to say that or not to do that, because let's go back to that top one. You are in control of your pattern, your participation, and your part. No one else is in control of your part. You are. Just because other people are triggered doesn't mean you have to be triggered. You have a choice. You can choose to respond or to react. And I put a note on there. You might write that down and put it in your pocket or put it in your phone for that day you're going to be with your family. I have a choice as to whether to respond or react. I'm in control of my participation, my part, and my pattern. But let's try to get everybody together and on the same page. Educate, validate, and normalize the disease for other people, and then create that safe space for communication. That's why family emails oftentimes will work so well, and send it as a group. Put together a group. Now, I do have some families that have group text so that they're not having to update individuals. They update everybody at once. Emails can be really good because you can choose, again, either to respond to everybody or just to respond back to one person, which some text apps you can do that as well. But if you take the lead and say, I've got this program, let's just use our communication program, because that's probably the best one for family members that are coming in for the first time. We've also got Holidays and Dementias out there. That's another great one. Hey, and we talk about communication in that one. I watched this video online. Here's a copy of it. I hope you get a chance to watch some of it. And send them the link. You're providing the education. You can't make them do it, but you're offering it. Let's all get on the same page as much as we can. Come with ideas for support. Here's just some ideas. The 36-Hour Day is a great resource book. I use that all the time. You can get them at half-price books back in the clearance section, because I think it might now be in its 8th or 9th edition. It's been out forever. Fantastic resource book if people just need some resources. The day program. We've got a day program here. Wherever you live, hopefully you've got a day program around. Notice I'm not saying daycare, dignity, independence, a day program for your loved one. Support groups. We've got 2 support groups that meet weekly. One is online every Wednesday at 1. One is in person every Friday at 11. Getting into support group for yourself and for other members of the family. Education. We provide at least a class a week, sometimes multiple classes a week. And then we've got our YouTube page, and there's other places who provide fantastic education. Counseling. The stigma is starting to go away about getting some counseling. There are people who do counseling specifically for those who are caregivers of people with dementia. I'm one of those people. If you can't work with me, I can get you to somebody who can, where you do one-on-one. A lot of times people just need to talk, maybe 3 sessions. They just need to realize they're not in this alone. They're not doing anything wrong. They're doing the best they can, and they need to start finding out that there's resources out there for them. Encourage the family that lives away to do regular calls or regular FaceTimes with your loved one as well so that they can be involved. Some other things that we can do is we can delegate because trying to do everything is not going to work. You can't do it. You'll end up burning out. But what we want to do when we delegate is we want to highlight that other person's strengths. Now, let's say I've got a brother who is not good at sitting with my mom. That is never going to work. But you know what he can do? He can mow the grass. He's really good at mowing the grass. And he's really good at picking up the prescriptions. And he's really good at fixing stuff around the house. So I'm kind of keeping a honeydew list of things that I would have had to have done or get somebody to do. I'm going to highlight the strengths. Another great example, we've got I come home from work, I get dinner ready for mom, we watch Wheel of Fortune together, and then at 7 o'clock every night, her sister calls her because she lives somewhere else so that I can go take a walk or do something for 30 minutes to an hour. I know mom's safe because she's on the phone with her sister and they love to gab on the phone. Aunt is helping me out, so she feels like she's also keeping her connection with her sister. It's win-win. Highlight other people's strengths. What are they good at? What can they do? Then we've got KISS, keep it super simple and sane. And we've got You're Not Martha Stewart. And that's not what caregiving is about. It's not what special occasions are about. Make it simple this year. Just bring it down. Opposite, bring food in. You don't have to cook. Or what I did several years ago is started saying, I'll provide the meat. If y'all want side dishes, you better bring them. And then this year, we're going out. We're going out. Not cooking. Be careful yourself with alcohol, food, gossip, overindulging in anything, because then you can become unfiltered. And that's when the debates can start. And that's when the hurtful words are said. And that's when we fall back into those family dynamics, into those roles. Validating other people's emotions and then demonstrating empathy. As you demonstrate how to communicate, how to act around your loved one with dementia, others are watching you. And as they see you interact, they're going to pick up on that. But if someone comes to you and says, I'm kind of scared to be in the room with dad, I don't know what to say to him anymore. Validate that feeling instead of saying, well, I do it every day. That isn't going to help anything. Or instead of, well, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're not validating their feeling. I understand it can be scary. I took some classes. I watched some videos online. It's a skill set. It's a skill set none of us ever wanted, but it is a skill set. Here's some things that work. Let's make sure we always do that big hello, those little goodbyes. Let's just sit and watch shows with him. Let's get him to come in here and fold some towels. Here's what I do that works. You might try this. Plan ahead. That's what you're doing now by being on this program. That's good. Remind yourself again, no one controls you and you don't control other people. Just because you feel that familiar pattern coming on, and look at the root of that word familiar pattern. Family in there. It doesn't mean we have to go back to it or relive it. Have some quiet time before and after your visit. Know your limits. Be realistic about what you can tolerate. And then you have to set some boundaries. There's a time you've got to take action. You've got to take care of yourself. You may need to step out and take a walk. You may need to go to the kitchen. You may need to remove yourself from a situation and go talk to someone else without starting to gossip. You may need to take a phone call, step out of the room, step out and text a friend, go to the bathroom. Put some positive affirmations on your phone that you can pull up. Practice that deep breathing. Instead of pouring another glass of wine, what if we got a glass of water? Go walk around the house, take a break, step away. And before you go back into the situation, look in and make good choices. And then congratulate yourself that you didn't fall back into that role. You didn't play your part. And we want to try to avoid negativity. We've talked about the difference in a response and a reaction. There are always going to be those family members who want to give you advice because they've read the latest article, but they're not around. There may be, I don't know about your family, most families have that person that tries to bait the hook because they're trying to get a reaction. And they can bait the hook with very, very common politics, where somebody intentionally brings something up because they know how you feel about it. Reaction is hostility, opposition, taking the bait. A response is to say or do something in reply or to even ignore it. But we can say or do something in reply that's not hostile, that's not an opposition. I've even done things with not going to go there, or I'm letting them know I recognize what you're doing, not doing it. Resistance is a signal to respond in a different way. And then listen to your amygdala. Your amygdala is the one that says fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Distinguish between real and perceived danger. Because you know what stress is? Stress is what we perceive to be dangerous. So I might think a situation is pretty calm, but my brother over here might be freaking out. And it's how we perceived it. The last thing you need is you dumping cortisol because your sister said something snarky. Is it real danger or is it perceived danger? Because somebody trying to bait the hook with a comment about politics is not real danger. No one's going to get hurt here. You're not, as long as you respond and not react. Somebody might get hurt if they react. We don't want to go there. You're in control of you. You're in control of that amygdala. Use that skill set. Step out. A response could even be, I think I'm going to go get some more snacks for everybody. Y'all want anything? Everybody good? I'm acknowledging you said something by not acknowledging you said something, by stepping out. I didn't take the bait. I'm not going there with you. This particular sign is my favorite. I think most caregivers are pretty bad about using the big four-letter F word. I'm fine. When in reality, look at this. I love it. I'm depressed, sad, hurt, confused, lonely, unloved, judged, misunderstood, insignificant, broken, dying inside, on and on and on and on. Because so many people really are willing to help, but they don't know what to do, or they are scared to death of the disease because they're not educated about it. And others may assume that you are okay if you keep telling them that you are. So let's talk about assertive communication. There's a difference in assertive and aggressive and passive. And we're going to look at all three. So being assertive is when you ask for what you need and you're to the point. It's appropriate, it's not passive, it's not aggressive, and it's not hostile. It considers the needs of you and the needs of the other person. It helps you communicate better. It prevents future conflicts, it reduces stress, and it helps you obtain your goals. So here's some examples of aggressive versus assertive. And most people are hesitant thinkers because we get to thinking we're going to offend somebody else. But assertiveness is not offensive. Aggression is offensive. Let's look at a few of the differences. We're not going to go through this entire chart. But a person who's aggressive is telling other people what to do, and it can come across as a threat or that you're being bossy or that you're trying to control. Assertive is more making a request or proposing a suggestion. It's how it comes across. It's how it's perceived. Aggressive, the tone is loud, harsh, or over expressive. Assertive, the tone is composed and relaxed. We're just talking. In an aggressive conversation, I'm going to win at all cost. Interrupt, talk over you, and I'm not going to compromise because I'm going to get my way. But when I'm being assertive, I'm invested in finding a win-win for all of us. I'm going to actively listen back to what you say. I'm going to wait to speak until you're done, and I'm going to be willing to compromise. When I'm having an assertive conversation also, I'm going to be very focused. I'm going to watch my own body language, as well as be observing what's going on with the person that I'm talking to. I'm not going to point. I am going to make eye contact. I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to be distracted when we have the conversation. Here's some other examples of passive, assertive, and aggressive. You can be too nice. That's the passive person. Those are the people that many times are doormats. They've got a lot of guilt. Many times they've got a lot of shame. They may even be in denial. Assertive, let's go to aggressive. Aggressive can be explosive. They can be threatening, overbearing. It feels like an attack and they're really dominant. And then assertive, we're using I statements. We're self-accepting, self-aware, self-confident. We've got boundaries. We're self-sufficient. So here's an example. First, let's do the passive. So I am the mom taking care of my husband, the wife taking care of my husband, and I'm talking to my son. And passive voice would be, well, your dad's really needing a haircut. Sure is needing a haircut. Yeah, he hadn't had his haircut in a long time. It's almost like we're hinting at it. And it's really easy for somebody to go either nothing or to even say to us, well, maybe you can get him up there sometime this week. Because all I'm doing is dropping little hints. But what I'm probably going to turn around and do is say to someone else, well, I told my son his dad needed a haircut and he didn't do anything about it. I'm being passive. That's passive. Now, what about the aggressive? Here comes the son. You never do anything for your dad. You can clearly see the man needs a haircut the last time he had one, and you don't even come in and try to do anything. If you would, now it isn't about the haircut, is it? Because I came in acute. Son is automatically going to get defensive. He's probably already out the door. And is he coming back anytime soon? Because you're being overbearing and hostile and you're attacking him, is what you're doing. But what if, while we're having lunch, or we're talking on the phone, where it's just us, and we're talking about dad, we're talking about my husband, I say something more along the lines of, your dad's really needing a haircut. What day this week would you be available to take him? Your dad's really needing a haircut. Would you be available to take him this afternoon? You got some time? Oh, you can't do it this afternoon? What about Monday? Monday be good? I'm asking for help. I'm letting you know what I need, and I'm being clear. I'm not burdening my son. Most people really do want to help. They don't know what to do. We have to tell them, but we have to be assertive. There are just times that we need a break. We need to go run errands. We need to get to a support group. We may want to go to a movie. When's the last time you went to a movie? Had a massage, had a pedicure, gone and taken a nap, and you didn't have to keep one eye and one ear open. Let's say, especially since we're here at the holidays and maybe people are coming in town and they want to come and visit. Don't just let people drop in because they may call and say, hey, we're going to be in town. We'll come over. Well, here's what we could say. I would really enjoy to having a visit with you, but let's set up a time. And if it's not a good time, I'll tell you because some days are better than others and some times are better than others. And he's at his best in the morning about 10 o'clock. That would be a good time for you to visit. That's being assertive. Being passive would be, oh, okay, we'll stop by any time. And you don't mean that because 4 o'clock in the afternoon is not a good time. 7 o'clock in the evening is not a good time. And being aggressive, no, we don't want to have any visitors. Nope, this is just not a good idea. We're not going to do it. Assertive. We would love to have you. Call and we will set a time up. If it's not a good time, I'll let you know. What if I need an errand run? Would you mind picking up some milk for me when you go to the store next time? Not, no, I'm fine. Well, you never bring me anything. Would you mind picking up some milk? And then accepting help. Don't second guess. How to plan that family conference. And we are not going to have time to watch this video, but you have the video. This is an 8-minute video. Usually I show like the first 2 minutes. There is a video. You've got the link here, and the next slide is actually the link. And they're going to talk you through how to create a plan to have a family meeting. If you're a little bit hesitant, you're not sure about how to get it started or what to do, there's actually a video that's going to help you choose the time and the place that works for everybody, how to listen and be heard so that there's no interruptions. And here's the video. It's called How to Organize and Hold a Family Care Meeting. Again, when you get this later today or tomorrow, you can watch it. And it's a really, really good resource. But I started.
Hey everyone, my name is Jennifer Reeder.
Didn't mean to do that. Next, there we go. So what if there's conflict anyway? You're not in charge of fixing anyone. You're in charge of you and how you respond. And then think about what conflict is. Honestly, it is just because people are seeing things differently, and it's not always a bad thing. Conflict is not always a bad thing. Now, depending on your family role, you may be the one that tries at all costs to avoid conflict. But all conflict is it means that we don't all see things the same way. And sometimes it's because we're just not educated about it. And what if we looked at conflict as an opportunity to learn about that other person's point of view? Well, I didn't realize my brother was acting that way because he felt scared to death to be alone in the room with mom. I didn't know that because he's always gotten so hostile. But when I stayed calm and I didn't start accusing, he let his guard down, he let his armor down, and he was able to admit to me that he doesn't know what to say to her. He'd rather be out mowing the grass. He'd rather be in there fixing the squeaky door. You can manage conflict by being curious without challenging your beliefs if you choose to. This is all a choice. You can stay in the driver's seat, invite the other person to explain their perspective without correcting them because it's their perspective. Keep that in expectations. That will eliminate what's called defensive battering, where you're just fighting, you're arguing. Give them your undivided attention without thinking about what you're going to say next. And instead of listening to the words so much, listen to the emotion. And even if you don't agree, can you empathize with them? They're wanting you to hear the emotion. Reflect it back to them. It sounds like you're angry with me because I wasn't very attentive to you last time we were together. Is that right? And that's going to feel completely foreign to you if you haven't tried this before. And it's going to sound completely foreign to them too because they're used to getting into an argument with you, but we're breaking the patterns. How would you have liked me to have interacted with you that day? What could I have done differently? And wow, look how emotionally mature that is. I'm taking some responsibility for my part. Be willing to accept your part in it. Admit your error. If you had some error, admit it. There's our resources that we used for this program. There's my information. Perfect timing. Let me stop sharing. Um, maybe. There it is. Stop sharing. And see, we've got 2 minutes left. If anybody has anything in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and add anything or have any questions, you can always contact me or contact Jamie. We did record this. It will be on YouTube before the end of the week. You will get a copy of the recording and you'll get a copy of the slides as well. Please share it. Again, that's part of it. If you will share it, that's all you can do. You can't make other people do anything, but you can pass it along. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the very nice comments. If there aren't any questions, we're 1 minute early. Oh, here's one. In a previous session, you listed ways to categorize friends based on asking for help. Can you tell me where to find that? That actually is in a program that we do called Dealing with Dementia. And if you will email me, I will send that to you. There's a section of that book called Building a Support Team, and I've got it run off. So I can send that to you, Deanne, if you will email me and just remind me what it is that you're wanting. I'll send it to you. And again, don't forget, we've got that program up called Holidays and Dementia. We just did it yesterday with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, and so it's going to be on their page as well, and then it's on ours also. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a happy holiday time, and I'll see you next year. If you think of topics, email me topics for next year. Thanks. Bye-bye.